Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Leora and I talk on here about books, reading, writing and sometimes other stuff as well. And today I am here with the mid-year book freakout tag. This is I think my 4th year in a row doing this video, so it's like very fun to have these every year. So I'm excited to get into it. I have this entire stack of books right next to me, and the fun of this tag is that you're basically sort of discussing all the things you've read so far in that year. You're talking about your disappointments, your new favourites, new authors you might have discovered, anticipated releases, all that sort of stuff, so it's always very exciting to discuss. Before we get into the books though, I want to give myself a little shout out because my new collection has just gone live on my web shop. So I ship worldwide. If you're interested in some cute, whimsical, gold foiled bookmarks, or maybe some lovely little frog bookmarks, or a cozy bookstore tote bag. I also sell mystery bags with like mixed items in there. So lots of fun stuff. If you'd like to support a small business and your favorite artist on the internet, then please check out the link that I've put in the description. And yeah, I would love if you shopped with me. Now let's talk books, and the first thing we're going to discuss is the best book I've read so far in 2023. It's very cliche. I feel like this is everybody's favourite book this year. But you know, maybe the fact that it's everybody's favourite book is also saying something because it's just really good. So my favourite book so far this year is Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. I've talked about it a lot of times already on this channel. What can I say? I just thought it was so good, and it's also the thing that I've enjoyed the most reading this year, and enjoyment is always a big part for me when it comes to why I like a book. The story centers around two characters, Sam and Sadie. They basically meet in the hospital when they are children. They become friends, they sort of drift apart later in life, they meet each other again, and what they have in common mostly is gaming and making games and discussing games, playing games, designing games. And as adults, they come together and start designing games together. But that is sort of what happens. The book is about so much more. It's about friendship. It's about the developments you go through in life. It's about disability and dealing with disability. It's about mental health. It's about love. It's so many beautiful themes are discussed here, and it is just done so well. And it's really made me realize that I've never really thought about gaming as a form of art or a form of storytelling, but it definitely is, and it makes so much sense. Like, it's logical that it is, but I just never really thought about it that way, and it's probably also because I'm not really a gamer. Like, I play The Sims on occasion and that's about it. So I enjoyed this thoroughly. It made me cry. It was just, I was so attached to all the characters. I think Gabrielle Zevin is really good at writing a lively character that feels very real, and yeah, it was just wonderful. Loved it. The next question on the list is the best sequel you've read so far this year. This was a tough one for me because I've not really read any like sequels per se. I could only find like 2 books that I've read so far this year that were actually even in a series. Or I mean, like, I read first books of series, like I do that a whole lot, but I also just don't continue. So that made this a tough question for me. I read As Good as Dead by Holly Black this year, and that is the 3rd book in this series, and I did like it, but I wouldn't really say it was like my favourite sequel or anything, like not at all actually. I thought the 2nd book was much better. But then I realised I also read The Magicians of Caprona by Diana Wynne Jones, which is also like up for debate whether that is a sequel, because so there's this series by Diana Wynne Jones, and it's a wonderful series. It has all these magical, cozy stories about magic schools, young witches and wizards, and like all sorts of different things. These stories are all set in the same universe, and they're all sort of circling around this magician who is called Crestomancy. He's either in the story or like on the sidelines of the story in each of these books. I'm not really sure whether that makes it a sequel, but I am gonna go with this book on this question. It tells the story of 2 rivaling magical families. They all have their own enchanters and warlocks, but they are sort of rivals in this city of Caprona. It's set in Italy. It definitely has the summer vibes. It's really lovely. It's funny, it's whimsical, it's lighthearted, it's cozy. It's just a read I enjoyed a whole lot, and the audiobook is really good. Then a new release you have not read yet, but you really want to read, and for me that is Yellowface by Erif Kwong. I had seen everybody waving this book around on BookTube. I had no clue what it was about. For some reason I thought it might be non-fiction. I don't know, the cover feels a bit non-fiction-y to me. I didn't know what was going on. But then I was with my friend at Dutch Comic Con, and she was talking to me about how she really wants to read this book and she finds the premise so interesting. That's basically how I heard about the premise, and that is how I came to find out that it's basically about this girl who steals the manuscript of an author who's passed away. oh my god, the scandal. And then I had to read it because that had intrigued me immediately because it just sounds like so juicy and interesting. It says on the back, Athena Liu is a literary darling and June Hayward is literally nobody. See what you did there, RF Kwang. White lies. When Athena dies in a freak accident, June steals her unpublished manuscript and publishes it as her own under the ambiguous name Juniper Song. Dark humour. But as evidence threatens June's stolen success, she discovers exactly how far she will go to keep what she thinks she deserves. Deadly consequences. What happens next is entirely everybody else's fault. I've enjoyed everything I've read from RF Kwang so far. I just always get like sucked into the book she writes. It's just writing that really makes you vanish into a book and it reads away so well. Still have not finished The Poppy War, which is like, I've had that series for so long and I started in the first book and I just did not finish it. But yeah, this is a new release that I really want to get to. Then my most anticipated release for the second half of the year. Now I must say I'm not as updated this year as I've been in previous years. Like some years I'm really on top of it and I know everything that's coming out and there's like a distinct amount of books that I'm super excited for. Not really the case this year, but I do have a book I can talk about. And that book is The Unfortunate Side Effects of Heartbreak and Magic by Brianne Randall. Now this cover is just so stunning. I love it. It's witchy and cute and cozy, and you guys all know I love me some cozy fantasy, especially witchy reads, and you know that I'm gonna go into fall with all the witchy books. I'm gonna be making all the witchy content. I'm so excited, and I'm definitely planning on doing like a cozy witchy books recommendations video, and this book was described as Gilmore Girls meets practical magic. Basically, it was written for me. I have to read it, so I'm very excited about this. It comes out on the 19th of September, and that's the perfect time because I usually go into fall. Like, my fall starts at like the end of August. I'm like, August? Okay, almost September. Awesome. It's awesome now. So very excited for that. I am aware, by the way, that fall does not start at the end of August, but for me personally, it does. So the tagline of this book says, it's a debut novel that explores the shields we build around our hearts to retain our own magic. And I've read that it's heartbreaking, and I believe that this girl comes back to her hometown because her grandmother is dying, and there's this like generational curse that has to do with heartbreak, and then there's this old lover that comes back into her life. It all sounds very sad. I don't know if I can read something that tragic, but I do really want to because the vibes are vibing. The vibes sound really good. Okay, my biggest disappointment this year. It feels even disappointing to get to talk about this. I finally read The Final Girl Support Group by Grady Hendrix and I did not really like it. I think I gave it 2 stars. I had to kind of fight to get through it actually. It was really not my thing. So that's like a huge disappointment compared to Grady Hendrix's other novels I've read. I've read both My Best Friend's Exorcism. I've also read the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. Now with both of those books, I already felt like sometimes I was not sure whether Grady Hendrix is writing like a satire on our communities and like our sort of society, or whether he sometimes accidentally falls into participating in the kind of thing he's trying to critique. But still, I felt like his writing was just very clever. There was just something very intelligent about it. Especially his humor made his books very readable for me. I can read a book that deals with horrible subjects as long as it's funny. As long as the jokes are good, I can do it. And the premise of all of his stories is just so intriguing. Like, he's never come up with a premise that does not interest me, so I had to read this one, of course. It's about a support group for girls who've all survived a serial murderer massacre. That is so interesting, and it also sort of dives into Slayer films culture, which I thought sounded really very cool. But our main character is just so utterly unlikable. I could not get into it for the life of me. She's very paranoid, she's dealing with this anxiety disorder, and I'm dealing with an anxiety disorder, and I feel like she was written very well because it felt very real, but at the same time, I just didn't like her. Like, even apart from all her issues, I just thought she was not nice to read about and like not a nice person. And of course she's traumatized, and well, yeah, maybe you could say that she is this way because of the things she's been through. Maybe I should be more empathetic towards that, but at the same time, she just didn't make for like a protagonist that keeps you wanting to come back to the story. I kind of wanted it to be over. And then also the pacing was off, and also all the plot twists came out of left field, and they were trying to be like cool and interesting, the plot twists, but I just felt they were so unpredictable that they didn't make sense, and so they also just didn't really carry the weight that a good plot twist can carry. So yeah, unfortunate. a disappointment for me, but if you liked it, good for you. Then the biggest surprise I've read so far this year, and this is The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches by Sangu Mandana, which is a book I've been wanting to read for a very, very long time. I think every time I make a cozy fantasy video, everybody in the comments is like sort of attacking me. Well, not attacking me, but everybody's like, you have to read this book right now, please read it. And you guys were all right. It was really good. I loved it. And I'm putting it on my biggest surprise because while I did expect to like it, I didn't expect to love it as wholeheartedly as I did. I think I just thought I would have a good time reading it, but I didn't expect to connect to it so deeply. But I just felt like the things that are explored in this novel were done so well, and it was so beautiful, and it's also all things that I relate to. So it got to me. What can I say? It got to me. We follow Mika Moon, and she is a witch, but she can't tell anybody about it because witches are supposed to live alone, not attract too much attention, not hang out with other witches too much because it's dangerous. But she does run this online YouTube channel where she talks about her witchcraft, but she just like online she's like sort of pretending to be a witch even though she is actually a real witch. It's very funny. There is a witchy society that she goes to, but they only meet like very infrequently. One day she gets a message that asks her to travel to the remote nowhere house, which is basically a house where 3 young witches are living and they are in need of a magic tutor. And at first she's like, how do they even know I'm a witch? But then she goes there and you know, it's the kind of found family thing that I'm an absolute sucker for, that I just love. And then you combine it with the witchy vibes and the cozy vibe, and it was just a really, really good, heartwarming read that I absolutely adored. So yes, wonderful. The next prompt is my favorite new author, and this can be both a debut author or an author that is new to me. Now, the author I came up with is actually neither of those things, like not a debut author and also not new to me, but it is an author I feel like I really discovered this year, and it is of course Gabrielle Zevin. And I should actually say I rediscovered Gabrielle Zevin this year because I read Elsewhere when I was, I think, 15 or 14 years old, and it was one of my favorite books. And then this year I've read Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, and also The Storied Life of A.G. Fikri. This is the Dutch edition, de verzamelde werken van A.G. Fikri boekhandelaar. And yeah, this was amazing. It's my new favorite book. It is so good. I think like they could be together also on the list of like my favorite thing I read this year, but I chose this one because I feel like this is kind of a better book, but this just hit me harder personally because it's set in a bookstore and it's about books, and I love books. The next prompt in this list is my new fictional crush, and I feel like I should kind of retire this question because for years now I've not really been able to come up with like a satisfying answer for this, I feel. So I'm retiring that question and I'm putting in my own question because I'm allowed to do that because this is my channel. So I've changed that question to a book you finally read this year that you've been wanting to read for a very long time. And I did actually also read one of those. So this is The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss, a book I've been waving around on this channel for such a long time and I just didn't read it. I think I've been talking about it since like 2020 and I just never picked it up. But this year I've read it, I've picked it up, loved it. It's basically about Quotha, and he is telling his story as like a fantasy adventurer. He now runs this inn, but he used to be an adventurer and he used to go to magic school and he used to be a sorcerer, but even way back he was in a moving caravan circus situation with his parents, and he just tells his life story, and I love the kind of story in a story thing. Now, this book does it like on a deep level, like at one point you're reading a story in a story in a story, which is kind of annoying. But it was just really good, and it's the kind of book you dive into, the kind of book that feels so real when you're reading it. So atmospheric, you can almost see it happening in front of you. So vivid, so beautiful, such beautiful locations, settings, characters, just a wonderful read. I really enjoyed it, and I understand why so many people have said to me like in past years like they weren't sure whether I'd like it because the way women are treated in this book, it's kind of like they're not necessarily treated poorly, but it's more so they're like a sort of side piece to the story. There's not been a woman yet that is like very relevant, you know? So it always just kind of bothers me on some level when fantasy authors do this. And I've heard it does not get better in the second book, but it's still a series I'm really enjoying, so what can I say? The next prompt is what book made you cry this year? I'm literally just holding up the books I've talked about 3 seconds ago. These all made me cry. I'm a crybaby. I cry at absolutely everything. I'm emotional. So I cried at Tomorrow, Tomorrow and Tomorrow. Also cried at The Secret Society of Irregular Witches. And I also cried at The Storied Life of A.G. Fikri. So much crying. Go me. Next one on the list is a book that made me happy, and luckily I also have one of those, and for me that is In the Company of Witches by Aurelie Wallace. This was so cute. was so cute and cozy. It was adorable. We follow the Warren witches, and for hundreds of years now, they are using their magic in their small town, and they're kind of going by unnoticed. Like, I think there's definitely people in this town, that's my case. I think there's definitely people in this town that know that they are witches, but they're just like kind of unbothered by it. That's like my idea. This book is also super Gilmore Girls vibes, because these witches, they live in an inn, and it's these two older witches, and they're the aunts to Bryn, who's our main character. Bryn's husband's passed away, she's kind of struggling, and she's dealing with the effects of that. And then I believe somebody gets murdered in the inn, and everybody thinks that one of her aunts did it, but Bryn is like, well, obviously she didn't do it. So it's a cozy mystery set in a cozy inn, and it's just perfect for the fall. If you want to read anything this autumn time, you should read this. The most beautiful book I've received or gotten myself this year is this, and it's a lamp. But it used to be a book, so I feel like it counts for the question. So this is this adorable, whimsical book, which has a little lamp in it. This was crafted by Jultjes World. Unfortunately, she only ships within Belgium and the Netherlands, so if you don't live in any of those two countries, you cannot get one of these. But if you do, you definitely should. They are so cute to put on your bookshelf. I have another one right here, and I just really love them. I got this one for my birthday this year, and it's absolutely stunning. It is so pretty. So yeah, I think that is the most beautiful book in my collection that I got this year, even though it's not really a physical book anymore. But I feel like it's fair, because it used to be a book. And then it's already time for the final question of the mid-year book freakout tag, and that is, what is a book, or what are books that you still need to read before the end of the year? And for me, the book I'm looking most forward to, I think right now, is Heartstopper Volume 5. It's not out yet, but I believe it comes out around the beginning of December, so I'm like, maybe I can still read it this year, right? And that's just such good news, and I'm like sort of clinging on to that, even though I'm not sure when it comes out in the Netherlands, but like, I'll go to the UK and I'll pick it up, okay? I don't care. I am so excited for this. I really want to read it, and I want to read it in the physical copy because it's just better. And yeah, I'm so excited for it to come out. One of my favorite series of all time. It just makes me feel happy and warm and at peace inside. So yeah, very excited for that. So those were all the books I wanted to discuss in this mid-year book freakout tag. It's crazy that it's already the middle of the year. It's even a bit past the middle of the year. I hope you guys have been having a great reading year as far as well. I've not read as much as I've read in previous years, but I kind of feel okay with it, actually. It's kind of nice to slow down. I've read a lot of good things recently though, so I'm really enjoying myself, and I think that's all that matters at the end of the day. I'm very curious to hear what was the best book you've read so far this year, and also the worst, because I always love finding out these kind of things. And if you don't know what to comment, leave a nice tulip emoji. And don't forget to check out my new collection on my web shop. That would be amazing. And yeah, hope to see you guys in the next video. Bye!